This video was sponsored by Brilliant. Hey, happy Friday. This week Xiaomi got a nasty fine of almost $1 billion. Google bought a display maker of all things, and we got new standards, Wi-Fi 7 and UFS 4.0. Welcome to the Friday Checkout. Okay, my release highlights this week start with Apple's new $159 cable that's understandably generating quite a bit of outrage online, though I think the outrage this time is a bit misguided. It's a 3-meter long Thunderbolt 4 Pro certified cable with a braided copper design. Data transfer speeds are at 40 gigabits per second, and among other specs, it does 100 watts of power delivery as well. Sure, it's expensive, but it's the only cable with these specs that is this long, and competitors can often be unreliable, so maybe it's worth the price. Then, in more cable news, if you get my pun, the first 240-watt USB-C cables have just launched as well. That is big boy gaming laptop power coming from a USB-C cable, which is not bad. Also this week, YouTuber Simone Yech launched her merch that is very her on her new website. The items include an all-white 500-piece puzzle with one piece missing, a fancy everyday goal calendar with LEDs, and Philips heads screwdriver rings. I like it, it's clever, it's useless, and very on brand. And finally, the adorable Willow X robot lawnmower from Eevee went up for pre-order as well, and it's a strange kind of fun. Not only does this mow lawns, but it also has arms so that it can pull up weeds or pick up things, which it will do for 6 to 8 hours on a charge, starting at 3,990 euros. Take that, gardeners. Okay, and my first story of the week is going to be some wild shenanigans over at Xiaomi India. The Indian government abruptly seized 55.5 billion rupees, or about $725 million from Xiaomi India's bank accounts this week, alleging that the company was moving money abroad in illegitimate ways. A statement from India's Enforcement Directorate said that Xiaomi sent this amount overseas under the guise of paying royalties and payments to other members of the Xiaomi group, but did not receive any services in return. If indeed they paid for non-existent services, then that would be tax evasion, of course, because the company makes money in one country and then pays for a fake service in another, and that way they move their profits over there. The official statement from the government says that Xiaomi India didn't get, quote, any service from the foreign-based entities to whom such amounts have been transferred, and that under a bunch of paperwork that it dug through, there was a, quote, facade created among the group entities. And by the way, the document loves to capitalize royalties, so I can just see kings and queens everywhere. Anyway, in response, Xiaomi said in a statement that it believed its, quote, royalty payments and statements to the bank are all legit and truthful, which, yeah, sure, of course they say that, and whoever uses the word legit in an official statement must legit be doing great, I think. Anyway, it's basically impossible to assess the validity of these claims from so far away, but I had 3 main questions regarding the story, and here is how far I have gotten with those. First, 2 of the 3 entities that Xiaomi sent money to abroad were based in the US, despite Xiaomi not really having much business in the US at all, so why that country? I first thought taxes, but they don't really seem to be the right answer since there are surely better tax havens than the US. Then I thought Xiaomi makes phones in India, so maybe they need to license some of their technologies and stuff from abroad, and maybe some of that is from a US subsidiary. That would be my best guess. Second, there would be the question of how much this amount of money actually means to Xiaomi overall. Now, the company doesn't break out their Indian figures cleanly, but we do know that they made a total profit of $2.9 billion in 2021, so the fine is really about a quarter of Xiaomi's entire annual global profit, and by my estimates, likely about as much as their total Indian profits. In other words, it's a really big deal. And third, there's the question of what will happen to all the money that was seized. Apparently, Xiaomi is weighing its options, including a legal appeal, though it might be wary of upsetting Indian authorities with the India-China fallout still ongoing, and the government might keep a part of it or all of it depending on what it decides. India is a huge market for Xiaomi, where it is still a market leader, so it is unlikely that they will fully pull out, I suppose. But if on the long term the company feels that the move was deeply unfair, it might start prioritizing other markets going forward, since losing something like a full years of profit is no joke. We'll have to wait and see. Okay, my second story of the week is going to be strange news coming out of Google. The giant announced that it has acquired a little-known company called Raxium, quote, an innovator in single-panel micro-LED display technologies. Raxium, you ask? Apparently this is a 5-year-old startup that, quote, miniaturized, cost-effective and energy-efficient high-resolution displays that have laid the foundation for future display technologies, and its display tech is supposedly 5 times more efficient than the current world record holder. Some big claims. Reportedly Meta and Snap were also looking to buy them, so maybe there's some truth to that. So why do all of these companies want to buy a display company of all things? Apparently their displays are a perfect fit for future AR and VR glasses. Google Labs is reportedly currently working on a new AR headset, codenamed Project Iris, to ship in 2024 or so. And of course we all know that Facebook and Snapchat are spending big on building their own hardware as well. MicroLED is kind of like OLED in the sense that the individual pixels themselves light up, but it is said to be orders of magnitude brighter and more power efficient, so it would make sense in outdoor glasses powered by tiny batteries especially. It's still kind of surprising that Google would buy a display company since it doesn't really manufacture hardware or anything like that, but all these tech giants and even the software giants are increasingly buying up key technology providers so they have a competitive edge. Also, the information reported that Google is looking to acquire more AR glasses component suppliers and that it has, quote, realized that you can't just own the operating system. Makes sense, I guess. Okay, and my final story is going to be some big upgrades to Wi-Fi and mobile storage standards. The first one is Wi-Fi 7, with Qualcomm adding support to their Networking Pro series of chips, which are made for access points and home routers. Qualcomm is joining MediaTek, which showed off its Wi-Fi 7 gear back in January, meaning that Wi-Fi 7 is kind of just around the corner, and Qualcomm says you can expect up to an insane 33 gigabit quad-band connectivity over 16 streams, a more stable connection with minimized interference, and the ability to support more than 500 users in each channel. It feels like Wi-Fi 6 and 6E have arrived just the other day, and consumers like you and me might just skip Wi-Fi 6E altogether, but the news is that the two will likely coexist for some time. The Wi-Fi 7 standard is only expected to be officially certified in 2024, meaning that until then everything will be just pre-certified hardware, so I guess we aren't going to be in a huge rush anyway, but let me know down in the comments whether you are excited about new Wi-Fi standards. And the other standard story this week is Samsung announcing UFS 4.0. That's the latest high-speed storage standard replacing UFS 3.1, and Samsung said that it has already been approved by the organization called the Joint Electron Device Engineering Council that is responsible for the standard. UFS stands for Universal Flash Storage, and it is a memory standard made for phones and such, and the 4.0 version improves speeds up to 23.2 gigabits per lane, or double of that of UFS 3.1. According to Samsung, a phone equipped with it could deliver a maximum of sequential read speeds of up to 4,200 megabytes per second and sequential write speeds of up to 2,800 megabytes per second, which is getting up to speeds of proper fast desktop SSDs. Now keep in mind that UFS really just describes the maximum potential bandwidth, and a whole host of things from the actual memory chip that's used, the memory controller, the file system, and so on. They actually decide how fast memory is, but still, the new standards sounds really good. Also, for efficiency gains, UFS 4.0 should be a 46% improvement over previous generations, meaning that phones should get faster and consume less power as well, and Samsung says that the standard is coming out in the third quarter, so probably the next generation of Galaxy S series will get this with the first chipsets to support the new standard. Of course, the iPhone has long used Apple's take on the NVMe standard instead of UFS, which was originally meant for desktop SSDs, and it will be interesting to see how the two will compare in real life. Alright, if things like memory controllers and file systems sound a little bit overwhelming, but you want to understand how things like these work truly on a fundamental level, then I have good news. My sponsor Brilliant has fantastic classes on exactly that, including one that's literally called Computer Memory. Brilliant is the interactive online learning platform for science, computer science, and engineering with 11 million students online, and their courses cover not just memory, but everything from the basics of algorithms and data structures to complex topics like machine learning and quantum computing. The unique thing about Brilliant is that their classes are structured so that you can learn a complicated concept broken into small chunks, and then you get to do an exercise after each one, so you practice your learnings right away and end up building a much deeper understanding than you would have just watching a lecture or something. Brilliant guides you from beginner to advanced levels very effectively, and beside computer science, they also cover other areas of engineering, maths and more, so if you want to get better at your job or simply want to learn to think like an engineer, it's the perfect place to be. The first 200 people to sign up using brilliant.org/TFC will also get 20% off their annual premium subscription, so check them out. Happy learning, and I'll see you next week.